When I was reading your book, I had just been to an exhibit on Taoism at a museum in Chicago, and I was reminded a number of times in the book of Taoist philosophy, and then I came upon a passage where you actually referred to Taoism, and I'm wondering what whether indeed am I imagining this, or are there some real resonances between your thinking and Taoist philosophy?
Well, I'm talking about philosophical Taoism, such as you find in the famous classic, the Tao Te Ching, by the famous philosopher Lao Tzu. And according to the philosophy of Taoism, ultimate reality, called the Tao, is humble, is unobtrusive, is not prominent, doesn't stick out. But precisely because of that humility of ultimate reality, it allows the rest of nature, the rest of reality, to emerge. And perhaps the best example given by the Tao Te Ching is to imagine a circle, a wheel, with spokes converging from a center. And that center, geometrically speaking, is essentially nothing. But yet this nothingness generates a wheel. Or think of the emptiness of a window, which allows light to come in. It's this insight the Taoist philosophy had, that that which is most effective is also the most unobtrusive. And they have the notion of wu wei, which simply can be translated as effective non-interference. So that that which is most effective, most foundational to reality, is not going to be found among the objects of ordinary experience. And I correlate that with the Christian notion of the humility of God. And that's one of the themes that perhaps you found perhaps a bit strange. It's not one that you might have grown up with, and that many people have not grown up with in their religious experience. But yet, a case can be made, and has been made by contemporary theology, that this is the most characteristic feature of the God of Christianity. And the classic text for this is St. Paul's letter to the Philippians, in which he puts an early Christian hymn which says that Christ was in the form of God, but did not want to cling to that status, but emptied himself and took on the form of a slave. And subsequent theological reflection has taken that to mean that ultimate reality is self-emptying, self-humbling reality. And that fits nicely the new understanding of an evolving universe, because a humble God would not overwhelm the world, would not stick out prominently as one object among others, which is what religion often looks for. And we're disappointed because we don't find that kind of God. We find a very unavailable kind of God. But the unavailability of God is a correlate of the fact that we find a universe which is constantly striving to become itself. That's how I understand. From a religious point of view, this is what evolution is about. Even the expanding universe that we live in, as Pannenberg has pointed out, can be interpreted theologically as consonant with the theme of a God who lets the world become itself. God wills the independence of the world. And this is kind of like the God of Taoism, or the ultimate reality. I don't want to use the word God to refer to the Tao, but there's some sense that what is ultimately real in the Taoist position is exceedingly humble and unobtrusive, and not available to scientific observation.